Madlab Performance presents The Lab Podcast. Here's your host and chief mad scientist, Dan Gilbert.
Hello and welcome everybody to The Lab. I'm here with Luke the Don Hillman.
As always.
And Luke, what are we talking about today?
We're going to talk about exercise as a form of medicine, and we will dive into that a little deeper throughout this conversation.
What do you mean when you say exercise as medicine?
Exercise.
Talking about swallowing RFEs?
Yes. Actually, I wish it was that simple.
Yeah. Intravenous squats.
No, definitely just how exercise should be more of an integral part of the entire scope of someone's health. I feel like that exercise is not, I mean, in us it is, but in the general population, I would say it's not. I would say maybe it's slowly getting to that, very slowly, but I do think it is getting to that. But I feel like it's more of a reactive solution for a lot of things. Like, now your blood pressure is high, go exercise.
I see what you're saying.
A year ago, when you went to the doctor for your physical, your blood pressure was probably great. Well, not great, but good. And probably didn't mention anything about exercise. But now that it's high, you need to exercise.
Yeah, it does seem very reactive. And a lot of our medicine seems very symptomatic as well. Like you have somebody that goes in for their knee. They're like, oh, well, my knee hurts. And they're like, okay, well, let's just look at the knee. And they're like, go over this, and that, and the other thing. And then maybe it leads towards surgery, or maybe it goes to physical therapy. But the therapy, and then after the therapy, then they start talking about exercise.
Yeah.
You know, not beforehand, where if somebody really had a good balanced programming, maybe they could have avoided this altogether.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't just mean like physiological stuff. I mean also, like I said, like high blood pressure, like more of that internal stuff as well.
Okay. I see
Heart disease, stuff like that, more susceptible to respiratory infections.
So do you think that exercise should be an absolute like connected part of healthcare?
100%.
And how would you go about doing that?
How would it go about fixing the healthcare system?
Well, that's for the Book of Luke podcast. No, I'd say, well, maybe. Yeah. I think that would go a long way.
Yeah.
But for example, a lot of healthcare seems to be driven by insurance, right? What people can pay for and like how things work. So with your insurance, a lot of times you get some doctor visits a year, usually one doctor visit or wellness visit a year. Are you saying that exercise should be part of that?
In a perfect world, yes. In a perfect world, yes. But as of right now, like how can we respond to what's going on right now? Like that's just not a realistic.
Before we do that, tell me the perfect world. Let's start with the perfect world, and then we'll work our way backwards.
Well, the perfect world is like you said, where you actually can get either some form of training or something covered by your insurance, because like you said, most health care comes from an insurance provider.
Or gym membership or some knowledge.
Something like that, of some capacity. I mean, obviously, the better package you have, the more you can get, like pretty much anything.
Right.
But it should definitely be a huge part of someone's life.
I do think
from an early standpoint.
Yeah, I think that as part of your wellness plan, besides like your doctor's visit where they're just like,
because I can make an argument before. Pressure. Yeah, well, that's what I'm gonna say. So like,
they should go, what's your exercise routine like?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I work out once a week and I bench press 10 sets, and then the doctor should be able to be like, either refer you to somebody, be like, hey, we need to refer you and like give you some knowledge on them. Not necessarily training either.
Yeah.
I think maybe it just comes with knowledge, and somebody sits with them and goes, all right, you should be working out X amount of times per week. Here's some other movements that you should be doing. Can I see some of these movements from you? Oh, actually, you should be doing this regression or whatever. So why don't you do this for 3 or 4 weeks and then come back and see me, and then we'll see about progressing.
Yeah. No, 100%. And then that's another thing. Like that's what I was going with. You know, when you talk about an investment, just in the
there may be a business in this. Luke.
Well, the point
no one take this idea.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
The point you made, you know, with it being, you know, the money part, like with insurance, and you could honestly make the argument that investing in people like that and making that a part of their integrally part of their overall health plan, you would save money. The insurance would, because most diseases in America, just going from America, is caused by lack of exercise. The obesity rates and high blood pressure and diabetes, it has to do with the high sugar. High sugar and everything. But at the same time, if you look at the one overall factor, it is no exercise. Right, no heart and lung health or anything at all. Like that. Yeah, like there's none of that. And even when you look at like certain your parents when they grow up and stuff like that. My parents probably didn't have the best food choices, but I mean they were a lot more active than we are. I mean even from not us individually, but as a society. Like even from a job standpoint, they were much more active. I kind of want to do this now. I kind of want to reach out to somebody, like some insurance or something, and go, hey, here's what we can offer your clients. Yeah. And I think that again, just knowledge, not even training. Yeah. Although it kind of work, maybe somewhat, maybe it could be somewhat counterintuitive because then people wouldn't train as much, but the overall health of society would benefit. I think that's the most important thing, right? Yeah. So again, I think that it's important that somebody comes in, talks to a doctor. If the doctor feels like their exercise routine is lacking, they refer them to maybe some kind of wellness consultant or some like fitness, something like that, right? At least access to some sort of information. It doesn't have to be, obviously you want the biggest ideal scenario, but sure, if you don't have that, then you take what you can get. And you could have like new positions for that, or you could use a physical therapist's office maybe, because then they could assess movement and be like, all right, here's some of the things that are going on. Here's what we think that you should be doing based on your current levels of your current movement levels, right? Your ability to move. You should be doing these things, and you should be working towards these things. Yeah. Here's what your frequency and duration should look like, and then we'll work from there. And overall, exercise is the key thing. The way I look at it, and you can please, this is definitely just my opinion. Good nutrition doesn't lead to exercise. It's people starting to exercise that leads to good nutrition. It seems like that is most of the time. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I feel like if you get someone starting to exercise, want to be more healthy, that inspires them. Exercise is kind of the gateway drug into a healthier lifestyle. It 100% is. Yeah. No one exploring other things too, and you're like, well, what's my nutrition should be like? Oh, what vitamins should I be taking? Yeah. And you start to escalate. It's not the flip. Like no one starts eating chicken and rice and they're like, you know what? I think I want to go lift now. That's not what it is. It's very rare. It is rare. It's the other way. It does seem to be the opposite. I don't know what the statistics are on that. I don't know either. But I would guess that they are skewed in the way that you're talking about, for sure. Yeah. So I definitely think that's something that should be implemented, obviously, in the ideal world at the highest level. Now, stuff you can do now, just without that being in the perfect world, you can still do things to invest in your health, like even a gym membership. You can do a cheaper gym membership, but you can still go work out. Yeah. You know what I mean? There's still like programs available online. I mean, we have programs at Madlab Performance. We do have programs for it. You can do it yourself. Shameless plug. But yeah, you have access to something that it could at least help with what we're talking about, just improving overall health. And then you could have different tiers of it. So then you could have where maybe you get X amount of like wellness consultant visits per year, and then maybe you get actual one-on-one training and stuff like that. Yeah, and honestly, like if to start, I mean, you should at least be referred to a good book, like a good programming book. Yeah, I agree on how to program your own workout routines, and then also on how you should be moving, and maybe to do some self-assessment. Yeah, right. Is that perfect? No, but it's a step in the right direction, and I think we could take that step. Yeah, right now. Like you go to a wellness visit, and the doctor's like, here, read this, read triphasic training. Maybe not. That's very complicated, probably for the first person. Yeah. For the first fitness book. But it's definitely something like, maybe even like starting strength or something of that nature. But just a solid foundation. Yeah. So that's the whole point. So you can go in there and at least, lower blood pressure. Right. Deal with stress better. Deal with your anxiety. Yeah. You know what I mean? A lot better. Also feel more I think some of it, the gym membership thing is great, but a lot of people don't have confidence in the gym to do some of the movements, not only to not go in there anyway, because then, they're intimidated a lot of times and they're not really sure what they're going to do and they don't really have a plan. But then also
the confidence to do some of the movements that they should be doing.
Yeah.
Right? The default is I'm going to come in, I'm going to take a class because it's guided and it might be busy and I might not be seen, so I can like hide in the back. Right,
yeah.
To start with. Or I'm just going to go to the treadmill because I know how to walk forwards.
Yeah.
You know, and in place.
Yeah.
So, or on a bicycle because I know how to do that. I can do that on a stationary bike. So I think that people default to what is easy with them, no matter, I mean, good programming even with that. But even with good programs, sometimes we default to some of the things that we are simpler and stuff. But I think that happens a lot at the newer levels of fitness, of just being like, I want to have a workout routine. I'm going to start going to the gym. What are you going to do? I'm going to walk on the treadmill for X amount of time. It's good. It's not a bad start, but it's hard to progress that if they don't learn anything.
If you don't know anything, and plus people are creatures of habit. We all are, including myself. So I'm not going to pull myself away from that.
That's the next one.
But
creature of habit, Hillman.
But you definitely as humans, you get stuck in your routine. So naturally, you just think what you're doing is okay.
Right.
And you're not really progressing yourself.
And that can cause issues in itself, right?
Yeah.
Because then you start to get a lot of the overuse issues and stuff of that nature. I would rather somebody have issues, though, from exercise than the issues that are associated with not moving at all.
Yeah.
You know, I'd rather have somebody have some overuse injuries, as bad as that sounds.
No,
but at least they're trying to move.
Exactly. And they have the will to do that.
Yeah.
And usually if you meet someone with injuries, that means they're pushing through their injuries, which is obviously not a good thing.
Right.
But at the same time does tell you, though, that they really want to be active.
And they have the determination and discipline to do it. They just might not have the right
guidance.
Knowledge.
Yeah.
And then that can change much quicker than giving somebody, like if you, I'd rather give somebody knowledge than try to give them the discipline and determination to do something.
Yeah.
If I could teach everybody discipline and determination, I would be a millionaire.
Yeah.
By now. So
unfortunately,
that is a much more difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
So.
And with that, like I said, like a lot of the growing, and this needs to be something that, in a perfect world, once again, should be kind of implemented ASAP because these numbers are just rising.
Yeah,
the obesity rate, the diabetes rate, and then the segue into another point, but anxiety and depression is a massive one with the spike in the U.S., not just due to the coronavirus, with all that stuff, that implications with that, but just in general. And when you look at all the data, the most natural thing you can do for anxiety and depression is work out.
I mean, the most natural thing you can do for probably even getting sick at all and getting the coronavirus or whatever else is out there is to be in good health before something like that hits you.
Exactly. You don't want to be reactive.
Right.
Like, it's just like you don't want to spend, all these X amount of years of your life not giving a shit.
Yeah, because you're working from the hole.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, from down in the hole.
And so that's the thing too, like to what you said,
I was trying to say.
with people, having to stay indoors and stuff like that, it's still good to do at least an at-home routine. Do something. You got to stay active. Not even just for your physical well-being, but your mental well-being. And that's a huge thing. When you look at the mental well-being is more important than your physical well-being, if you ask me. If I had to pick one.
For sure.
So I think that's a huge thing.
Because the mental well-being a push towards the physical.
100%.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think if I was giving advice to somebody right now, I would say just work on being consistent in whatever it is you're doing, and then find one solid piece of literature to teach you programming and some self-assessment.
Yeah.
And then just slowly start doing that stuff maybe once a week. While the other 2 times or 3 times a week or however many times, you should be working out at least 3 times a week if you can.
Yeah.
So then the other times, you're just going to do what you're comfortable with at first. Tell yourself, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to step outside my comfort zone maybe once a week and do some of the self-assessment and some of these other movements at home.
And that's why it's so important to get kids going early to become a part of their daily lives.
So that way, when they're adults, they're way ahead of.
Yeah, it's not
they don't have to go through some of this stuff.
No, and it's already a part of their life. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. So
that's why I got old Jackie Boy in here.
Push-up and rows.
Push-ups and rows. Maybe a little bit of sled, bear crawls, some hopping, jumping, stuff like that.
But and it helps. I think it's a good way to kind of usher out the sedentary lifestyle that's going on. So, for instance, the sedentary lifestyle, once again, is not a lot of anxiety, depression. You could argue comes from that sedentary lifestyle, being stuck, and then the tripling effect from that, and then being overweight. What that does to you mentally. And all that, it's like a really trickling down effect. And that sedentary lifestyle does a lot more to you mentally than it does even physically.
Yeah, there's a good argument for that.
And you look at and typically if you're sedentary, what are you doing? You're sitting behind a screen, right?
Right.
And there's a ton of studies on what that does to your mind. Looking at your phone and a screen nonstop.
Yeah.
Not healthy.
I mean, it's even more so now with the things locked down.
Exactly.
And you have kids that are trying to do everything off of Zoom and all those things. So now to connect with other kids, they're even more on social media than any other generation's ever been.
Yeah,
Not just because of technology, but also because of the times as well. Yeah, because it's hard for them to get social interaction right now because a lot of stuff obviously is locked down. They're not playing their sports, a lot of them aren't. And then obviously not going to school and stuff. That has a big impact mentally on everybody. And then obviously physically as well. What is your biggest gripe or frustration with medicine as it stands right now?
My biggest gripe.
Your biggest gripe. Gripe seems like such a great word for you.
I mean, probably what we were
many gripes.
Probably what we said in the beginning that I feel like you're more incentivized to take medication than to take control of your own health and exercise.
I think that's
massively.
I think that's a really good point. If you don't take control of something in your life, then you're going to be you're going to be much less determined to learn about it.
Yeah.
Right? And then you're also going to be much less motivated to do whatever it is. Yeah. Right? Because it's not your own thing. It's somebody telling you what to do. Yeah. Something that you come up with is going to obviously, especially like kids, they obviously are going to do stuff that they come up with sooner than what their parent tells them to do. Yeah. And more often as well. And probably in a better way. Yeah. Also. Yeah, I would say I think that is a large problem.
And also, too, when you look at it, when we bring back to the kids thing, is when you do a workout program, it does teach a certain amount of dedication. You put in the work to see the results, and it's the amount of work you put in is what you get out of it.
Absolutely.
Which definitely translates in life, if you ask me. I mean, it's the same thing when you look at the concept of team sports. Doesn't matter if you were the star or anything on a team, that type of stuff you learn transcends later on in life.
So you're saying everybody should play a team sport at some point in their life?
I do believe that.
What happens if they don't?
I mean, you definitely, you should be in something team oriented. You have to, because at the end of the day, no matter what success you want to be in, you have to be able to work as a team.
I think that you see a lot of that in people that haven't played team sports. So I think that people should play team sports growing up. You don't have to do it consistently or even like be good at it. I just think that you have to have some kind of experience with it for exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. Because I've noticed people that have not played team sports, and maybe they did do some kind of sport, but it was a solo sport of some nature. I feel like if they've not been on a team like that, it is hard for them to figure out, one, to really have a good idea of teamwork, but then also to know that you have a role in a certain, let's say you're in a work environment. So a role in your work environment, or even a role maybe even in a family environment or in some kind of relationship. Yeah. Because roles are important, and like doing whatever it is that you're good at, or like strengthening whatever part of society that we're talking about. Again, if it's a work environment, relationship, family, whatever it is, I think is massively important. And if somebody doesn't understand that, then it's going to be much more difficult for them to operate within some of the bounds of society.
Absolutely.
Waxing philosophical, if I said that word right. Words are tough today. Doing podcasts on Mondays can be difficult, after a long weekend. Mike knows. Look at Mike over there, just leaning against the window, trying to figure out life.
I gave up on that.
So you're saying, back to your other point, because I think that you did make a great point, that we, instead of taking control of our own
well-being
and health,
it's more driven to that,
to medicine.
Take the pill.
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
Well, obviously, there's a lot of interest involved in that.
There is a lot of interest
high level, but that's like something that we can. So that's a whole nother discussion. But that's definitely something at a higher level that needs to be addressed.
That's a drug company and their money podcast.
Yeah, pretty much. But at the same token, even with that, the way I always look at it is it shouldn't deter you from still trying to take control of your own health. Absolutely. So at the end of the day, you are in control. So there's still steps you can do despite that to take control.
Hey, you should start researching. You should start researching some stuff on your own. You should start experimenting with things as well. So like nutrition.
Yeah.
And when I say experimenting with things, like experimenting with nutrition, and don't just like start experimenting with drugs and medications, please. So like you should get on some kind of nutrition app and then try to count your calories. Yeah. Right. Try to weigh your food just for a little bit, just for a week, and just see.
It's eye-opening.
Yeah, it's very eye-opening. Yeah. And I would say everybody should try that. Everybody should have read some kind of foundational programming, like some kind of like starting strength book or 5-3-1 or something of that nature, as well. And somebody should look at some forms of self-assessment. Yeah. Right. Whether it's like reading about the functional movement screen and just starting there, and then and going from, because that is meant to kind of teach some people that don't know as much and have like a score with it. So then at least it gives you an idea. You know, nothing has to be perfect. You just need to start doing something and take some control of whatever's going on.
And also, too, the framework that you only have to work out if you're an athlete needs to be kind of obliterated. Because obviously you're going to have people, if we want everyone to be healthy, not everyone wants to be an athlete. Right. Some people want to be an engineer, and that's awesome. But you can still work out and have that mentality, I'm doing this for my health. Right. I mean, for my overall well-being. Matter.
If you're an engineer, you should be able to still do a full range squat. Yeah. You should be able to sit at the bottom of a squat fairly comfortable.
And not to mention how much benefits the working out has to cognitive performance.
And you should be able to do a couple pull-ups.
100%.
That's a joke from our earlier podcast. The podcast we did in 1988, maybe. I'm not sure. We seemed like we've been doing this for so long. Luke, how many podcasts do we have now, Mike? 19 podcasts. We're almost to number 20. That's the celebrations. Right now. Oh, dang. Celebrations warranted after that.
I think guess. So. 20th.
20 years. 20 years. 20 episodes. 20 years.
We'll do it.
It all blends. It all blends. What else, Luke Hillman?
What do you mean, what else?
What else is your frustration with this movement, or recommendations maybe?
In the sense of,
I know we've thrown out a bunch of them, but like, what's your thoughts on it? What do you think somebody doesn't? Let's say we're talking about the engineer has sat at a desk for 30 years. Health is starting to become an issue. The doctors talk to them about lowering blood pressure and all of this stuff. They take some kind of blood pressure medication. They take maybe an antidepressant because.
Well, and that's another thing too. The blood pressure medication is on it. Like what it's supposed to be made for is if you spike, to help you bring down from that spike while you're doing other things to also bring down your blood pressure. So then you can go off the medicine.
Right, not to just lean.
Lean completely on it, which a lot of our society does.
Right, I would say that's most of the case. I mean, there are probably there's cases. Everything's got their outliers. So there's cases where probably somebody's body doesn't function completely correctly, and they just are always going to have to be on the medicine.
Yeah, well, that's an underlying. Yeah. So obviously, with those type of things, you have to take the medication, but at the same time, you will benefit
by doing some of the
exercise. So it's not demonizing you have to take the medication, but just knowing that there's a difference between relying on something than actually taking control.
I think that's a huge thing. So that our engineer, Bruce is his name. Our engineer Bruce. That's not a real person, although there are real people named Bruce out there. I'm sure somebody is an engineer named Bruce, but who knows? So he should not lean. Let's say he's taking an antidepressant and he's taking blood pressure medication. Yeah. He shouldn't just lean on those two drugs to fix his problems. No, he needs to do some other stuff that has been researched that maybe doesn't take him off the medicine, but maybe does. But that can help him in his overall well-being. So he should be exercising and sleeping better, and working on his nutrition and eating healthier. Maybe not drinking as much, because he drinks a lot. Bruce does. Yeah. Bruce, the engineer. It's got a stressful job.
It is a very stressful job.
Yeah. So he engineers spaceships. Spaceships, I'm saying. That sounds pretty stressful. Yeah. Yeah. So he drinks a lot, which also can affect his work. And that's why a lot of his spaceships haven't run exactly the way they were supposed to. One exploded. No one was in it, though, so no one was hurt. in this spaceship explosion. So that's also good in this hypothetical realm that we're speaking of.
Before you go too far off, I have a family of 4.
Yes.
A dog, a cat, and a goldfish.
Beautiful.
I've listened to this.
Yeah.
And I want to start. What's the first thing I, as a family, do?
You first need to figure out how you're going to get your goldfish socialized.
The cat will take care of that.
Okay, good. Luke, what would you say is the second thing?
The second, one thing, definitely do what Dan says. A family, you can count your calories. Typically, if you're in that family, the parents are buying the food. Typically, right?
Yeah.
So everyone's probably eating around the same things.
So you have somewhat control over your pantry.
Yeah, exactly.
Within and we do completely understand that kids can be super picky.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So within
Including
around that, but
myself,
usually
though.
can still. Yeah. I was very picky growing up. So, but there's still healthy things you can feed them.
100%.
They're not like I only want to eat bear claws all day.
Yeah.
So.
And it's you go into like the whole balance thing. Like life is about balance. So like you shouldn't have soda with every meal. You should drink water. But if you want to have a soda once a week, you're not going to kill yourself for your kids having soda once a week.
You should just try to progress.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially when you start counting stuff and you start cataloging it, it's much easier to figure out how you can progress realistically.
But
right?
then also to like what Mike was saying from the exercise standpoint, you can at least, if it does whatever it takes, go join the gym. If you can't join a gym, go do family walk. Go do something to start implementing. Go hiking. Do something.
Yeah.
To try to
we're
implement.
gonna hike twice a week.
Yeah. Do something to implement. I mean, if you can afford a gym, do that. Most gyms have classes, but that's much better than probably what they're doing at the current state. So I'd rather someone go take a class than sit on their ass all day.
I'd rather somebody move than not move.
Yeah, 100%.
Unless they just came out of surgery.
And then when you're doing that,
gone.
if you like it, then you're going to want to dive into it more, right?
Yeah.
And then you'll do research. And then from there, then you're just on your way to
Just
a healthier
get your feet
lifestyle.
wet.
Yeah,
you don't
exactly.
have to dive all the way in. No belly flops.
Yeah, exactly. Just get your feet wet.
Just get your feet wet.
Yeah, because I was curious about from the standpoint of a family.
Well,
Yeah.
the goldfish is already completely submerged underwater, so that's
Right.
different, too.
Very good at swimming.
Yes.
Does it make sense for us to do things as a family, or do I go off and lift weights and the kids go off and...
I mean, you can do that too. It's whatever your dynamic is. At the same time, let's be real. Like the 16-year-old kid probably doesn't want to work out with his 9-year-old sister. Right?
In your scenario, though, with the dog,
but my point is because dude, it's different. So like, there's nothing wrong with doing it separately. It's just incentivizing it as a family, in general.
But would you be better...
with the dog, the cat, the goldfish, you might have to take control over, though. Everybody might have to do their exercise together, for the most part.
Yeah, because the family that exercises together grows together.
Yeah, something like that.
So does it make sense to work out individually or try and come up with family events?
I don't think it's a
things to
bad
do?
thing to come up with family things to do, because one, it also helps strengthen the bond of your family, as well as you guys are trying to work through stuff. Some people are, depending on age and then also obviously personality, some people are going to kind of deviate to do their own thing. But if you have a 12-year-old daughter or 14-year-old daughter or like 16-year-old son or whatever it is, so let's say you have a 12-year-old daughter and she just started to get interested in exercise and maybe plays a couple sports. If she likes to do things on her own and does it regularly, you should let her do that. So then maybe you have a 10-year-old son and then your wife. So then husband, wife, and son can do some stuff, and the daughter can join if she wants. But otherwise, if she already has her workout routine and she has her health pretty much figured out, that to me that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So
And then also to that too, like you see families all the time. They'll go into the gym, then everyone just starts doing their own separate thing.
yeah.
So there's a lot of different ways.
But everybody went together and
Yeah.
everybody's going to the gym. So it really is how it looks. Is everybody doing something healthy X amount of times per week for a certain duration? If the answer is yes and it's all different, fine. If only one of those times you guys get all together and do something active together, I think that's great. If you're doing something like if you do a family hike once a week and then the rest of the times you all go to the gym and everybody does their own thing, I think you're in a great place. And you're in a much better place than most people in this country right now. for sure.
100%. That's the thing. It's just not incentive. Like to what we were saying earlier, it's just not incentivized.
Right.
It's looked at. Working out is looked at as a vanity thing, an athlete thing, and a reactive prescription.
That is a really good point. Actually, look at this. Look at Luke Hillman. I'll tell you. I think you're exactly right there. Yeah. I think it's looked at those three things a lot of times, and that causes problems because
and the vanity side,
most of the country doesn't fit there.
No, 100%. And a lot of the vanity will lead you down a road of doing unhealthy things.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. I'm just saying it can. So I mean, it's just one of those things. Like
see it on Instagram all the time.
Instagram couldn't function without it.
Well, that's true too.
But yeah, so I just feel like when we look at that, those are the three things people kind of see.
And I think when you do anything, like as you're starting to get your feet wet, again, you should record whatever is happening. So you should record what you've done in some way. It doesn't have to be exact. You don't have to do like necessarily like break it down into sets and reps of whatever or like exact minutes. If you are outside with the family for about an hour, just put that you were out for an hour on Monday and this was the activity, right? If nutrition, start at least writing down what you've eaten. If you can get to the point where you're weighing food and counting calories, even if it's just for a week, I think that is a great learning experience and eye-opening. But again, it takes actually writing it down and cataloging it, because then you can look at it after a month and be like, oh, we exercised as a family this many times. When I was looking at my own eating, I ate really well only 2 days a week. I thought I was doing it 5 days a week and only cheating twice a week. But now I realize that I've really screwed up my diet way more than I thought, or whatever. And then maybe you think that you're exercising as a family or you're all doing something active, but then when you look at the end of the month, you've only done something 4 times.
Yeah.
Right? So it just takes cataloging to really figure out where the weaknesses are and where improvement can be made, or where you're doing stuff really well. And I think that's also important.
Yeah, because you definitely need to pat yourself on the back.
Yeah, you need to see your accomplishments and see how long, and then it's there right in front of you, and then you could tell somebody and be like, "Hey, we did this, da da da. We did this as a family this many times. We went on 6 hikes this month," which I think is great because we went on 0 before this. You know,
yeah, exactly.
So I think that is one of the most important things, and then just learning how to research some of the stuff. You know, I think is also important. We should put some resources in the notes, Mike. I think that would be helpful for our listeners.
Yeah, that would be helpful, actually. That's actually a good idea, Dan. That's
Thanks.
actually a good idea.
I'm good for one a week.
No, that is a great idea.
Anything else, Luke?
That's basically what I have for today. To be honest with you. I think we hit everything.
Start cataloging. Start digging into your nutrition. Start looking at how to program for yourself and do some self-assessments as well. And just really take control of your fitness, your health, your destiny, Luke Hillman.
100%.
What else you got for us?
I just want to make sure you guys can check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Give us a like there. And also check us out on madlabperformance.com. Great resource for a lot of things fitness.
And once again, I'd like to thank everybody for another episode, for listening to another episode of The Lab.